Welcome back. Today I want to talk about the Kriya Yoga Bliss program. I had a wonderful question from one of my students on Patreon, and I want to share a little more of that bliss progression. How does it start? How do we get it started? How do we begin to get into bliss? How do we take that to the next step? And how do we take that to the next step? Where is this leading? Why is it so important? For the Kriya Yogi especially, bliss is very, very important. Why do the yogis have this deep and profound focus on bliss? Why is that part of the program? There's actually a genius reason for it. And if we know that, we can understand a little bit better the progression into bliss, what it's doing to us, what it's doing for us. And when we understand a little bit of all of these things, the process of meditation unfolds so much faster because we know we have a little bit of an inkling of where we're going and what we're doing, and it makes all the difference. So let's get into it. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to enter the low idle state, because all of the rest of the work, it has to begin when we're a little bit quiet. So however we can get into that quiet state, that's what we want to begin to do. And the heart rate variability resonant breathing is the most reliable way to get into a nice low idle state to begin with. And along with that breathing, so we use the resonant breathing app for a little bit, we quiet the body, that reflects back on the mind gets a little bit more tranquil. And as we're doing that, we want to sit very still. SVS, sit very still. Because as we sit very still, it will help the freeze response in the dorsal vagal awaken. So we're awakening that dorsal vagal through the long breathing of the resonant breathing, and we're awakening the dorsal vagal through sitting very still. And this is very, very classical within every meditative system. They ask you to concentrate on your breath, and they ask you to sit very still. And that's why. It's because of the dorsal vagal. So if you just go ahead and control the length of your breath, it's going to shove you wonderfully right in the direction of the dorsal vagal. Because we're doing the resonant breathing, because we're doing the sitting very still, we're going to encounter some of the 4 proofs. This is a very, very important thing for you to know about. As you enter into meditation, there is going to be an automatic shift in the body. And you can monitor that, and that is biofeedback. When you monitor the changes that you are creating through the meditative program that you are going through, it causes biofeedback, and it will speed up the process of meditation. You will go deeper, faster every single time because you are using biofeedback. So it's magical, right? We're touching a lot of magical things here, right? So we watch the unfoldment of any of those 4 proofs that I mentioned, right? First, we notice that the hands, we're sitting very still, and the hands get hot and heavy. Some people say, my hands are not hot, they're just warm. That's it. That's perfect. That is enough. Hands hot and heavy, that's where we begin on that list. We might notice the blood recede from the lip, and it might start to tingle. Also very small, and as we notice these subtle things, we ourselves are becoming more subtle. So we notice that the lip is tingling, blood is withdrawing from the lip as the heart rate varies through the resonant breathing that we're doing. Next, we might notice that there's an increased pressure on the dorsal vagal. When we do that long breathing out, we might notice that extra pressure of the thoracic cavity pushing backwards against the spine. And right on top of the spine is the dorsal vagal. And so it gets pressed. And that pressure is ecstatic. You can begin to feel that pressure, and it will begin to become a little bit blissful, a little bit ticklish or joyful or expectant, but it will become a little bit ecstatic. That pressure becomes more and more ecstatic as we pay attention to it. It becomes more and more blissful. And the fourth proof, we might notice that parts of the skin begin to tingle. And it will show up in the part of the body which is the most relaxed for you today, in this moment. It might be your face. It might be your hands. It might be your arms. It might start one place and flow up into the rest of the body. You might feel it in your chest or in your legs or in your thighs, anywhere. You might notice this tingling sensation going through the skin. Those are the four proofs, and they are all a little bit blissful. That's the beginning of our bliss journey. Just entering into the low idle state is a little bit tranquil and a little bit blissful. And we go, oh my God, Forrest, it's not enough. I want more. Well, of course you want more. That's why you came. But we have to start somewhere, and we have to start out with the small little things. And what you do mentally is you go, oh my God, I got a small little thing. And you just put it right here and you go, it's like a bead. You're collecting these beads. Oh my God, I got another little small thing. I'm just going to put it right here, right next to the other one, right? And then you go, oh my God, I got another little small little thing. And you just press them all together. And you say, oh my God, it wasn't that big, but it's getting a little bit bigger. And then you press the next one. Oh my God, I got another bead of bliss. This is so great. And because you are devoting your attention and your love to it, it begins to grow. And it grows inside of you. And your attention and your access to it grows because of all of that love and tender attention. It grows inside of you, you see? And that's what we want. We want it to grow in this way. And it might hit you in a really big way. Somebody wrote to me and they go, Forrest, you keep saying it's so small, but it hit me and it was so big. And that can happen. But we don't expect that. We expect it might start small and then we slowly grow it over time. And that is perfect. If it's big, that's great too. But we expect it will start small and grow. But that's the beginning of bliss, you see? And it's very, very important that we catch that little bit of a beginning. So I wrote to my guru, I wrote to Ashok, I said, I'm getting bliss here, and I'm getting bliss here, and I'm getting bliss here, and I'm getting bliss here. And I expected that he would write me back, and he would go, oh, that bliss is coming from this, and this bliss is coming from that. And he just wrote me back, he says, so you're getting a lot of bliss, this is great. And it was a wonderful, wonderful response. And it was completely contrary to whenever I would tell him about energy. I would tell him, oh, I feel this rising through the body. Oh, I feel this over here. I feel this over here. I feel this energy. And he would go, okay. He was never impressed with my energetic feelings. Because eventually, those fade into the background. The bliss and the consciousness become everything for the yogi. But that middle ground is the energy. So it's great. It's wonderful. Wonderful sign. But so many yogis get so invested into it that he recognized that it's a bit of a trap. And so he never overly encouraged me regarding energy. He encouraged me regarding bliss and consciousness. Then he set the gauntlet for me. He said, okay, great, you're doing great. Now I want you to go into every chakra and om into every chakra until you can notice that you are getting bliss from every single chakra. I thought, wow, man, that's the gauntlet right there. Oh my goodness. And it took me a couple years to be able to do that. And after I had reached that point, that I could go up and down the spine into every single chakra and make every single chakra blissful by oming into it down to its core, you see. On the surface, you're just scraping away, but finally you get down to that core, and that is where the bliss is, right on top of the spine, right? So you can come at the chakra from two ways. You can come at the front and you're eating away towards the spine. Or you can come from the back and you can eat away towards the spine that way. Both ways are good. Both ways will work. But that's what we're trying to do in the next step. Okay, I got a little bliss here, I got a little bliss there, the 4 proofs, they're very blissful, and now I'm starting to sense if I will go down to the core of the chakra, it will become blissful. And once I have some of that bliss, maybe in the heart, maybe in the throat, now I'm going to see if I can get down to that bliss in every single chakra. Because imagine, if you will, you're sitting quietly in meditation and every single chakra is flowing with bliss. How overwhelming is that? How overwhelming of your life and your story and your worries and your concerns is that? It's overwhelming. And that's the idea with bliss, that we overcome our troubles, we transcend them. We overcome our life story, we transcend it through tranquility and through bliss. The bliss is designed to transcend everything that is in the story of your life, to overcome it, to overwhelm it. And when you make every single chakra blissful, maybe you don't make every single chakra blissful, but the journey towards that is so wonderful and so overwhelming that it will overcome your mind. And that's the idea. We're overcoming the left brain. We're washing it out with bliss. And then there's nowhere left to go but up into the divine, into the higher self, into the right brain. That's why bliss. And that's why the yogis talk about the koshas. And they say bliss is right before the ultimate, right? Right before Sat Chit Ananda is the Anandamayo Kosha, the sheath that covers the soul of bliss. And that's why if we direct ourselves towards bliss, we will always be pointing ourselves in the right direction. Now, Kriya Yoga has some fabulous insurance policies, and I think I'm the only one that says this insurance policy phrase, but it's built into the Kriya, this beautiful insurance policy for you, the meditator, that it's going to come out correctly. And that is Om Japa in the chakras, that's Navi Kriya in the 3rd chakra, and that's Maha Mudra, the stretching. Those 3 wonderful things, and the Kriya therapy that I talk about, which is an extension of the Om Japa in all of the chakras that is inside of the Kriya. Those 4 things are the insurance policy of the Kriya Yogi. And as you progress through the Om Japa in all of the chakras, and the Navi Kriya especially, you are cleaning out the projections of the brain. That's what your chakras actually are, right? You have a brain, you have a central nervous system, and the brain cannot contain this information. I have a conflict, I don't feel right, something's not right, and I cannot figure this out up here. I've got to project it down into the vehicle so I can begin to understand the story of the life and what I am feeling. And so we have hurt in the heart. It doesn't come from the heart, right? It comes from the brain. If you change your mind about something, you get some new information, the hurt evaporates. Oh my God, I was imagining it was something else, and now the hurt is just gone. How did that happen? If the hurt was actually in your heart, you wouldn't have been able to do that, but you changed your mind and the hurt evaporated because it's a projection. And so is fear, and so is jealousy, and so is grasping for the material. All of this is a projection in the chakras. And so we're oming into those chakras and we're wiping that out. We're wiping out and cleaning out the brain through this wonderful handle of the chakras that the central nervous system has provided for us. That's the secret of the yogis. I've got this fantastic tool, this wonderful handle to get to the brain. I can't come into the brain. It's a little too fine and complicated. But I've got this wonderful handle here down in the chakras, and I will use it to its full extent. And that's what the Om Japa in the chakras is doing for you. It is this beautiful handle to get a grasp on these projections, clean them out, and cause all of those processes to reverse back into the brain in a roll-up of consciousness. So that's our insurance policy. Om Japa in the chakras and Navi especially in the Kriya Yoga program. And through that cleansing, something takes place inside of the meditative yogi. Because a lot of times I hear from meditators and Buddhists and even yogis that they reach this deep, profound silence, maybe even a samadhi. They have a union experience. The body is gone. They're not having an out-of-body experience where they see or feel the astral form. There's no body, there's no astral form, and they're not aware of their breath. In that moment, it has become a union experience, right? They find themselves becoming one with something very, 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 very big and huge. And that's a union or a non-dual experience. And in that experience, do they automatically have bliss? Now, if you've been doing all of this cleaning yourself out with the Om Japa therapy, then the bliss will automatically arise. And now the yogis will tell you, well, that samadhi was correct because you had union with the very bigness, the big holy, you had union with that, and the bliss showed up. That is a perfect samadhi. But when it does not show up immediately, it's because we have not finished cleaning all of this out. So we have the expansion, but the bliss is not available. If you have watched the third training, you know all about the enlightenment pathway through the brain. That is what we are cleaning out. We are cleaning out that pathway, the enlightenment pathway. We're cleaning it out, and that is what makes the bliss of the left amygdala available to us. And so if you get very, very deep and the bliss does not show up, it means, okay, I've got more cleaning to do. And that's a very, very normal thing to happen. So don't fret, don't worry. I'm not cleaned out enough. It happens all the time. It's very normal. Now we can do more of the Om Japa in the chakras and the Navi Kriya, right? On the Guardian video, I explained the Navi Kriya, didn't I? So if you don't know what Navi is, go back and watch the Guardian video, right? Those two things will help to clean us out so that the bliss naturally arises in our deepest part of the meditation. We can also do more of the cute baby meditation, access the left amygdala directly, build up the strength and our access to the left amygdala. And that is right in line with the enlightenment pathway, making that bliss more and more available, especially at our deepest point when we become very, very tranquil. And so all of this is part of the unfoldment of the Kriya Yogi. First, he encounters bliss in the body. Then he encounters bliss in the chakras. Then the chakra explodes with bliss through the left amygdala. He's come all the way down to the core of the projection of the chakra, and he finds a perfect access into the higher self, into the left amygdala, especially into bliss and inspiration. And it starts to bleed through all of his meditation. And everything else in that progression begins to fade through the freeze response. The body begins to freeze and disappear. Even the chakras, he may notice that the lower chakras begin to disappear with the body. They will fade and fade and fade. So what you took all this time to find and feel will begin to fade. The 4 proofs that you spent all this time to find and feel will begin to fade. And that bliss, that pure bliss of the left amygdala that you have drilled down into the chakra 4 will become more and more and more prevalent. And so you've reached a new stage, haven't you? You started off with the body, you started off with the bliss of the dorsal vagal, you got all the way down to the core of the chakras. These things started to fade, and that bliss and inspiration and the calling for expansion gets bigger and bigger and bigger. In your meditation, it becomes everything that is important to you. That is the Bliss program of Kriya Yoga. And that bliss, that inspiration, and the call of expansion is drawing you into the non-dual state, into a samadhi. And that's the program. That is the Bliss program in a nutshell. So I hope that you loved this. I hope you will check out the Enlightenment Pathway in the third training. Know that information. It will help to make sense of where we are going in meditation, where it's leading us into the deep parts of the brain. And be sure to hit that bell down below so I can see all of you next time.